By the way, his name was Young. That is to say, the customs agent's name was Young. Apparently Oswald came from New York by himself, got to Niagara Falls, and then asked the customs agent if he could just wander across the border for several hours and then come back. I run into customs agents, nobody had ever let anything like that happen. Okay, so then, 10 years later, that same customs agent, whose name is now Thomas, last name is Thomas, Charles Thomas actually, is the customs agent who was the same agent who let Oswald supposedly walk across, is now brought into New Orleans for one day so that Oswald can get a passport. And now, that's possible that that's true, but not very likely. To me, it may be the mechanism that would allow a person who came over from either Russia or Eastern Europe to cross across the border, and then you get a cover story. I'm not saying that's true, but it's as likely an explanation as to what I've heard. And that might also help explain how Oswald was so proficient in Russian without seemingly ever had any experience other than he just started speaking at age 23 or something, which is without any instruction. It's not too likely. Okay. Another thing. Judith Baker was, I think, probably a fairly naive. Now, the stories that she would tell, or the things she would tell, could be falsehoods, but they're what she was told. For example, the story with the customs agent. To me, that story doesn't ring true, but that may have been the story she was told. In regard to Oswald, whom she actually, if you ever watched, you had to watch it one time, it was only shown once, on between, I think, the 20th and 22nd of November 2002 on the History Channel, they showed the men who killed Kennedy 7, 8, or 9. In fact, in 7, Jim Fetzer was in that particular episode. 8 was about Judith Baker, and 9 was about the involvement of LBJ. Apparently, I've been corrected about this, I think I'm actually wrong here. They actually did sell 500 copies of the entire set, 7 through 9. But then, for several years, they didn't sell any, and now they just sell 7 and 8, with no interest in ever selling 9 again. So I show that to my classes all the time. Anyway, she, by at least her point of view, she had a love affair with Lee Harvey Oswald. That's somewhat described here. But she really went to New Orleans to do medical research. And she was there from about April 1963 to, I think, 1st of August or so, or, I'm sorry, 1st of September 1963. And over that period of time, she became involved with Oswald. But more important, the reason she was there was to do cancer research, or more importantly, she was very good at working with fast-acting cancers. One of the persons she met was a fellow named Sparky Ruby, or Rubenstein, and or as we know him, Jack Ruby. And it was explained to him the process of fast-acting cancers. Now, if you recall, I believe it was 1966, December 1966, Ruby actually got his conviction overturned. The claim was made that a physician gave him 2 sets of injections and he died later that month. And if what Judith said was true, he knew what was going to kill him. One of the other things, Oswald was seemingly penniless, yet was able to give Judith $400 when she returned back to Florida, which, given that he was unemployed, it implied he was getting money from somewhere, and I guess it was CIA for the most part. But of course, they're not going to have any records of that. The other thing people ask, well, why did she take so long to tell her story? Well, she had planned to go to Mexico with Oswald. That didn't happen because he was killed. And she was married to she was actually married to him. She got involved with Oswald. And she just never said anything about it. Anyway, I guess that's enough about this for me. I would like to make a few comments. First of all, in terms of security for Kennedy, in 1962, I saw President Kennedy in Pueblo, Colorado, and it was in a football stadium, held about 15,000 to 20,000, and it was pretty full. And anyhow, as I walked in, I noticed that my brother, who was a state patrolman, was there with a gun in his hand. And so I said, "Hi, Gerald." And I noticed very quickly that he wasn't looking at me, and he just looked right through me. And so I watched the speech, and then the next weekend, I said, "So why wouldn't you talk to me at Kennedy's speech?" He says, "My job there was to provide protection and not to speak to my brother. My job was to seek through the audience, and if I saw anything that looked like a gun, to shoot him." Now, I thought, that's pretty good protection. It doesn't seem like the protection that either Gary ran into here in Grand Forks or that Shirley Kennedy ran into in Dallas. And it's interesting, you know, if you talk about levels of protection, you can say, well, that was back in '63. Well, a year before they could provide protection. Seems like they put them in '63 as well. And with regard to some of the things that Jim went over, there was, when he mentioned or showed the pictures of likely places where shots might have come from, one of the places was the Dow Tex building, and he mentioned a uranium company. That uranium company was actually owned by a Morris Jaffe. Morris Jaffe was probably best known for being the person who owned and started Costco. It's probably less known that he explained to Sam, whatever, Walton, yeah, Sam Walton, how to run that sort of organization, and got Sam started. But there's a couple of other things. He was one of LBJ's closest confidants, and in fact, he was the person that took $400,000 to the JFK people at the Democratic Convention in 1960 to ensure Johnson's being named vice president. And it just so happens that these some of the shots seem to have come from where he owned the office space. One other little thing, Mac Wallace.